Hey guys, welcome to Main Course Cooking School. Welcome, good morning, good afternoon actually from Texas. What we are making today is a Dutch baby pancake pizza. Make sure you wash your hands before we get started. Remember, we're going to do 20 seconds. We want to scrub, make sure the nails are clean, the nail beds are clean. I need to wash my hands. So go ahead and get started with washing your hands, and then turn the oven on, preheat to 425 degrees. And you can do that with convection or non-convection. It's up to you. How many? How many? Okay, cool. So we have about 185 of you guys coming in from all over the country. We are going to go over the ingredients real quickly for the class. You're going to need 3 large eggs, chicken eggs if you got them, duck if you don't. Milk. You can use 3/4 cup of whole milk. If you're using a 1% or 2%, I'm going to tell you to start with a half cup, and then work up from there when we start to make our batter to see. It's going to be making it a little thinner, and I want to make sure the batter's thick enough. It's going to look like pancake batter that we're making today. It's just a regular kind of pancake. We're adding a couple more ingredients that you don't put in a normal pancake, and then we're going to cook them here and finish them in the oven. We also need 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour, and we've got cornstarch too. Cornstarch is 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, and what that does, it gives your Dutch baby pancake a little bit more of a rubbery texture, it's to fill in the holes so that when it starts to grow in the pan, it'll be able to grow like a volcano. So that gives it a little bit. If you don't have cornstarch, you can have potato starch or something like that. If you don't have it at all, it's still going to work. This just makes it work a lot better. We need to have salt and pepper. I think it's a 1/2 teaspoon of each. Measured it out. And then we've got some butter. And the butter is in 3 tablespoons. What we're going to do is take 1 tablespoon and set it to the side, and then melt 2 tablespoons that are going to go into the recipe. This 1 tablespoon that's not melted is going to go into the pan when we start to cook. Okay? All right, so everybody's got all your ingredients together. That's the eggs, the milk, the flour, the cornstarch, the salt and pepper, and 2 tablespoons of melted butter. We're going to pour that, mix them all together in this pan. We're going to start by doing the eggs, cracking the eggs. Remember, we crack them on the countertop because your egg could be rotten. You don't want to get the shells in the bowl. It could be hard-boiled sometimes. You don't remember where you put the hard-boiled eggs. But I'm just cracking them flat on the countertop and then putting the whole egg into the bowl, remembering that now that I've touched the eggs and I could have touched the raw part of the egg, and it's on my fingers, I'm going to wash my hands again because of the potential for cross-contamination of salmonella. Okay? Okay. So there's been a request to kind of slow down and start over because some of you guys didn't have the ingredients together or things like that. I want to remind you guys, we post our ingredient list on our Facebook page every Friday, so that if you are ready, you can get that all ready to go before we get started, because we're going to start doing this from 12 noon. We're going to start and we're going to go through, and if you miss anything, you're going to have to jump onto the recording afterwards, okay? Because we've got in Texas, we're starting to open back up. We're going to continue to do these Facebook Live shots, hopefully through the month of May. But if we're starting to work and I'm starting to get people interested in time slots, I'm going to start selling out. So I want to make sure that we're ready to go when we're here. I want to make sure I reach out and give a shout out to Joy Michelle. She's in Denver, or somewhere Colorado right now. She's got a watch party going on. She is here with a bunch of people from Colorado and her old friends from the Clear Lake area here. All right, so we're starting over. We started with the eggs. We added in 3 eggs. They were room temperature. We have milk, and this is a 3/4 cup of whole milk. If you're using 2% or 1%, I want you to start with a half a cup and then work up when we start adding a little bit more at a time in your batter. Only because it's a thinner milk, I want you to not, it'll be a thinner batter, okay? We also have a half a cup of flour, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. The cornstarch in the recipe is not required, but it does help it to, when we start to make the Dutch baby rise, it'll rise a lot bigger with cornstarch, and it just kind of fills in the gap there, gives it a little bit more of a rubbery texture to your Dutch baby. So I've got the eggs in now. I'm going to go ahead and add in the milk and mix the two. So 3 eggs in, half a cup of milk, or 3/4 cup of milk, half a cup of it's 1% or 2%. Just with a regular kitchen fork, dining fork, we're just going to stir that together. Make sure the eggs are all broken up and you don't see any yolks just lingering in there. I'm going to add in the butter now while it's still liquid. Our room's kind of cold, so sometimes when it's cold in your room, the butter will start to recongeal. Put these to the side. Now, any questions so far?
My video is
Behind. All right. All right, so we've got that mixed. Now I'm going to add in the flour, and I'm going to keep whisking while I'm adding in the flour, a little bit at a time, okay? So that there's no lumps. I'm just going to put a little in and keep stirring, keep breaking up that flour as it comes in, grabbing the sides. You can use a whisk if you want, but the fork is all you really need in the kitchen when you're making this recipe. And it's going to start to thicken up with that flour. And if you have to set down the flour and mix all your stuff, ingredients in, just make sure you're doing that. We don't want to see any lumps. Go slow, slow, slow. You can also, if you want to do it really quickly, you can do this in a blender. Put all the ingredients in to a blender and just blend it up. It brings all those ingredients together really quickly, and then you're ready to make your Dutch baby. All my flour is going in now. And the ingredients I have left that are not used in there yet are the cornstarch, which is 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, and the salt and pepper for seasoning. There's those other ingredients that we had, the tomato sauce and the cheese and the herbs that whatever herb you want. I've got those set to the side because those are going to be on top of the Dutch baby. After it starts to bake, we're going to reach back out, pull it out of the oven real quick, and put the tomato sauce, the cheese, and everything, and then put it back in the oven for a couple of minutes so that it will melt the cheese and heat the other ingredients. And then when we pull that out, we're going to put the fresh herbs on it at the very end. Okay, so now you've got a consistency, a dough or a batter that looks like just really thick, like eggs, butter, and flour. Okay. Sure. The question was, can we use non-dairy milk? And I'm hoping you're talking about something like that doesn't have a flavor of vanilla or anything in that. You can try it. I haven't tried that recipe. The recipe we're doing here is with the dairy, but do try it and then give me a picture and send it back. I'm sure it'll work. Really, it's just, I think it should work. There might be a lack of fat in there. You may want to add a little bit extra butter or non-dairy butter, which is margarine, just to give it some fat back into it. I really haven't tried it that way, but I'm sure that it won't be too bad. I'm going to add in my salt and pepper now. And this is because we're making a savory Dutch baby instead of a sweet Dutch baby. In a sweet Dutch baby, instead of salt and pepper, you just put a little bit of salt and a little bit more sugar, no pepper. All right? So I've got those ingredients in now. I'm just going to whisk in my cornstarch. Before I do that, I'm going to turn on the stove underneath my fire. And I'm just going to do it to a medium. If you've got a nonstick pan, that works best. But you can certainly do it. Just make sure you get enough of fat or spray, kitchen spray or oil or anything on the pan before you go into the oven. If you don't have a nonstick. So this nonstick works great. Better if it doesn't. It has a lot of spray or kitchen spray. I'm adding in my cornstarch now. And this has a tendency to lump, right? So we want to just keep it moving. You never add cornstarch to a hot batter or water. It'll just turn into little lumps of cornstarch. You want to only add it to cool. So cool items, all right? Making sure there's no lumps, keeping it moving. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to move over. I'm going to move over to the whisk now. All right. So I'm going to go slow and we'll go back over this ingredient list and what we did before we go into the pan, okay? All right, so I'm added in all of my cornstarch. And then I've whisked that back in. All right, before we go into the pan, I'm going to turn this pan down just a little bit. It's warm enough. I'm going to talk about what I did. So into a bowl, I added 3 eggs, a half cup of, 3/4 cup of milk, whole milk, half cup of 1% or 2% is fine, and then you move up from there. But the 3/4 cup whole milk and the eggs are in the bowl. I whisk those together. I can use a fork or a kitchen whisk. I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of the butter that we had. This is a divided recipe. The other tablespoon, we're going to put into the pan and melt it before we add in our Dutch baby batter. I put in half a cup of all-purpose flour, and then I whisked that all in slowly so that we don't have any lumps. And then I added the salt and pepper, half a teaspoon of each. And then I added in 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. And that doesn't require it in the recipe, but it helps it a lot to help with the rise and making it just the consistency of the batter. Okay? So if you haven't made a Dutch baby pancake before, it's like a regular pancake. We're going to start to cook it, and then we're going to put it in the oven, and it's going to start to rise up the sides of the pan, and it should make kind of a big bowl of a pancake. When we take it out of the oven, that steam dissipates again, and then we're able to put in our ingredients in the center of the pancake.
So people are asking why is there batter running?
It should be running. So you should have. Let me show you. So the batter. The question is, if your batter, why is my batter runny? Well, mine's runny too. So this is what it should look like. I'm going to go ahead and just use this little bowl. It should look like this. Should just be able to pour. All right. So our pancake is ready to go into the pan. I'm going to just move this out of the way. So add the butter in. I'm just going to melt the butter all the way. I'm going to make sure it's on all parts of the pan. Go up the sides a little bit too. Be very careful. It's very hot. And then we're going to go ahead and add in our batter. And this is 1 Dutch baby pancake. All right. Add in your batter. You're going to see the oil or the butter, the fat part on the outside. You're going to see it around the edges. It's okay. And then you're going to see your Dutch baby start to cook a little bit. Not all the way. It's just going to see that it's firming up on the edges of the pan. And then this whole thing, the whole pan, is going to go into the oven. All right? And then we'll answer some questions. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in, and then we're going to answer questions and work on our sauce. One thing I want to make sure you guys know, this Dutch baby is going to grow a little bit. So if your shelves are in the way, just make room for them. I just moved mine down, and then I'm just going to put this back in the oven. I didn't do that before, but this will grow, so we want to make sure it doesn't hit the top of the next layer, okay? You can use a cast iron. Just make sure you have a lot of oil coating it. Okay. So now while this is cooking in the oven, we got it at 425 degrees. I've got mine on convection bake. You can have it on regular bake, whatever your oven works. But you need a high temperature like 425. It'll help that start to cook and then rise. We want to build up steam inside the batter, and then that's what's going to help with the rise, okay? All right, so while we're doing that, I'm just going to have you heat up on another pan. I'm going to have you heat up your tomato sauce. And the reason we're doing this is because... Sure? Sure, okay, so I've got some questions to slow down, so request to slow down. So let's talk about questions. Anyone have questions? You can type them in now. We'll go through it real quickly. All right, so reminding you about the second part, the Dutch Baby's pancakes in the oven. Now we have tomato sauce. This could be pizza sauce. It could be spaghetti sauce that you buy in a jar. It doesn't matter. It could be something you grew your own tomatoes and pureed. Any one of those fine. We have some cheese. It could be grated. It's grated. It could be chunk. In the recipe the picture I sent you before, it had some chunk cheese in there, but this is some grated mozzarella. Okay.
2 questions. How long should it stay in the oven?
Okay.
And also, can you use pesto?
Sure. Question about how long it should stay in the oven. I'm going to tell you it's going to stay in the oven till it's ready. There's no telling how. There's lots of recipes out there that tell you how to cook a certain recipe. This is a recipe I want you guys to watch in your oven. I'm going to say 10 minutes is what it's going to take, but it may be 12 minutes. It may be 14 minutes. It just depends on your oven. So I want you to kind of see what I'm doing and see how you can make yours do the same thing, and you're going to have to watch. I mean, there's cookies recipes out there that know exactly how long, but they don't know your oven. You know your oven. And so there's times when we go, oh, that's ready already. So we pull it out, or it takes a couple minutes longer. It's ready when it's ready, and that's how the recipes work for us. Okay, finishing up.
What if their pan cannot go in the oven?
All pans can go in the oven. I don't.
They could have rubber.
A rubber handle should be. Okay, well, can you move it over to a pan that this recipe requires a frying pan? I should have said oven-proof frying pan, but all of them are oven-proof, up to 500 degrees usually, because if you have it on the stove and you're cooking something, the heat still transfers into the handle, and you're going to need it. I think they're all oven-proof, but I might be wrong. We're going to heat up our tomato sauce. I'm going to go ahead and just add that in now. The reason we're doing that is because when we pull our Dutch Baby out, it's going to be sauce on quick, and then cheese, and then back in the oven just to melt. We want not enough time for the tomato sauce to heat up in the oven, so we want to heat it up now. So we just tomato sauce is about a cup, I believe. It doesn't matter how much sauce you have. You can use pesto. You don't have to use tomato sauce at all if you don't like tomatoes. You can use whatever you want. I mean, you can make an Alfredo cream sauce if you wanted to do that. There's no rule. This was just a pizza one we're doing, like a normal pizza. We're doing the mozzarella cheese. For me, I'm going to do goat cheese because I like goat cheese, so I'm going to put that in there. And then for my herbs today, I have some micro arugula, but basil or mint is really good. If you want to do, kind of a Mexican-style pizza, you can do cilantro, and you can put anything you really want on your pizza. That's the idea. I'm just giving you a simple, basic recipe for pizza, and then you can move up from there. You can put pepperoni on it, bacon, chicken, whatever you want to do. This is your palette. It's like painting a picture. You decide what colors it's going to be. You decide what ingredients are going to be on here. Any other questions?
They keep a lot of them are behind and keep asking about when does it go, the batter go in the pan, and when does it go?
Sure. So I'm going to go repeat. So once I got my batter done, I put a tablespoon of butter into my heated frying pan. Once that melted, I added my Dutch Baby batter into the frying pan. The minute it hits the pan, it starts to cook a little bit. You're going to see it's almost like scrambled eggs that you're making. You're going to see it start to firm up around the edges. And when it firms up around the edges, it's still liquid in the top, you can go ahead and put that straight into the oven. Just Take it from the stove and put it into the oven. The oven's at 425 degrees.
So what are they looking for it to be done?
So we're gonna show you. So to look to be done on a Dutch baby, you keep an eye on it. Now y'all know what mine looked like when it went in. Let's take a look real quick. I'm just gonna pop this open really quickly. You're gonna see my Dutch baby starting to get thick on the edges, and like there's a little lake of that kind of starting to firm up. And then when it starts to firm up a little bit more, it's going to rise up the sides of the pan. Excuse me. That's allergies, not COVID. All right, so when it starts to rise up the sides of the pan, that's when it gets thicker, comes around. When you know it's done when there's not any more liquid. You see the little bubbles like you do in a regular pancake. They're starting to go away, and there's just kind of little dimples in the top of the pancake. And that's about 10 minutes. So we've got about halfway there. You're going to see it. It's going to start with the cornstarch in there, kind of covering up, kind of sealing in the holes of where the flour are. That's what makes this rise. It kind of makes it a little thicker, like a paste, and then that is where the pancake can rise more because it seals up the places where the air bubbles would come out. Without the cornstarch, you won't get the rise that we like for our Dutch baby anyway. Any questions? The other?
So far, I know, but Mr. Kelly household is making a buffalo mozzarella basil and tomato.
All right, so I'm getting some feedback from groups. The Kelly household is making buffalo mozzarella, something, basil and tomatoes. So sounds like a caprese or a salad or a margarita pizza. So margarita pizza is mozzarella, buffalo mozzarella, which is fresh mozzarella with basil and tomatoes. Sounds great. See, that's ideas you can even, now that she says buffalo mozzarella, I say buffalo wing sauce on there with some chopped celery and some cheese, and like you make it a buffalo chicken pizza. All right, so my tomato sauce is heated up now. I just wanted to make sure it's warm through. That's all we need to do. Dutch baby is starting to grow up the sides of the pan right now. So it's even coming out of the sides of my pan. So really quickly, it's going to be there in just a couple of minutes. So we'll be ready to eat this in less than 10, okay? This is, and I think a lot of you guys are eating this for lunch today, but this is something you can make really easy for dinner. You can make the batter in advance, put it in a container and put it in the refrigerator. When you get it ready for dinner, you can just shake up the batter, take the lid off, and pour it into the pan, and this is really fast for dinner. It's great for breakfast too. You can make this the night before for breakfast and make, instead of putting the salt in it, you put a little bit of sugar, like a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of salt, and a tablespoon of granulated sugar in substitute of it. It's going to make your pancake a little sweeter, and then you can put peanut butter and bananas and whatever else in the center when you're ready to eat a sweet Dutch baby pancake. Think of things you put on the crepes a couple of weeks ago. Nutella and whipped cream and strawberries and things like that go great with the Dutch baby. This is just kind of almost a crepe idea, but baked, okay? So let's take a jump over here real quick and see what's going on in the oven. My Dutch baby is not a baby anymore. He's coming out of the oven. Ooh. See, he's puffing up. I'm going to go ahead and just flip this around just so you can see better. All right. I've still got a little bit of liquid in the bottom, and a lot of that is butter. So I just want to make sure this oven is cooking evenly. I want to see it puff up on both sides. See, it's kind of making a caldera, like the top of a volcano, which is kind of cool. Because my favorite part about this is the Dutch baby edge comes up, and then it gets really crispy. And the other side is kind of creamy and soft. All right, see how this is growing just up the side right now? You can see it just literally growing. Who's hungry for a Dutch baby? Let me see. It looks like this side, on mine, it looks to me that this side is sticking. And there's nothing wrong with sticking. I just want to release it a little bit so that it can grow. Right there. It's catching on something. All right. So I just stuck a fork, knife. That's a knife. Stuck a knife in between there and kind of just released it against the pan. and then put it back in the oven. And hopefully that side will grow so that I have an even Dutch baby all the way around. I see questions coming through. Anybody?
Everyone's like, whoa.
Cool?
Yeah.
I'm reading your things. Is there any way that you can substitute cornstarch for something else? Yeah, you can substitute cornstarch for with potato starch. You can don't have to put the cornstarch at all, but it helps with this rise that you're seeing, this big rise up in the back, okay?
Looks like everybody's getting there. They're looking at it. Let's see here. Yeah.
It looks like I'm reading some of your comments right now. Yeah, see, this side is starting to come up right there. That's coming up where I kind of released it. Whatever was sticking to on the side, even if it was just a little bit of protein connected to the pan, now it's starting to release, and it's starting to fluff up in the middle. It's drying out in there as we do that. And I just want to cook that kind of liquid out. It's going to, if you can see in the very center of mine, it's starting to puff at the center. It's coming up in the middle, which is fine. We just want to make sure this is cooked all the way through.
Looks like there's still bubbles in there.
There's
right?
bubbles in there a little bit. But see that cornstarch is helping to prevent it's because it's much finer than the flour. It's preventing the holes from just creating into the batter, and now you're capturing the steam that's in there. So that's what's making that rise, is just steam. We don't have a leavener in here. We don't have any yeast or baking powder or baking soda, but the batter with the cornstarch in it is capturing the steam better. And that's why if you were putting cornstarch in your pancake, you're going to get a creamier texture just like this. So I'm going to open this one more time. And I'm going to reach in there and grab this because I want to make sure, for me on this one, that this is going to release a little bit. So all you see right here is a little bit of butter. That's all. This is all thick now. There's some air in there, but it's all in the dough. Now I'm going to bring it back over here while it's out, and we're going to just put our tomato sauce, our cheese. I'm going to put that back on the stove. Remember, this is hot, so keep a pan handle on that, or keep something to keep you oven mitts there, right? And while I've got it ready to go, with my tomato sauce with heating, it thickened up a little bit, which is good. I'm going to just add it to the top of my Dutch baby. Baby. All right. I'm just going to spread it out a little bit like you would on a pizza. That's going to be hot. All right. And then we're just going to put our cheese on the top right now, and we're going to put this back in the oven just to melt that cheese. Don't go too heavy on the cheese. Sprinkle it in there, and then I'm going to put it back in the oven. See how it's starting to deflate? It's okay. That's fine. Put it back in just to melt the cheese. Actually, I had the goat cheese on mine too. I'm just going to drop a couple pieces in there. Goat cheese doesn't melt like mozzarella cheese. It gets warm, but it doesn't seem to melt down, so it's okay. Anytime you put that on, you can put it on before, but I like mine a little warm. All right, back on. Make sure your stove is off and that your area is all clean. You worked clean, so we don't have to. Your mom doesn't have to clean. So you see my station over here is all wiped down and clean. I've put everything that I was using into the sink, and so that I can wash that afterwards. This is starting to come together. The cheese is starting to melt. Takes about 1.5 minutes for cheese to melt in there. And then we're going to pull it out. We're going to finish it with our micro arugula, or you're going to put whatever you're going to put on the top of yours. If it's fresh herbs, you want to put them on after it comes out of the oven so that they don't burn. So fresh basil goes on after, or fresh mint too.
This reminds me of a Chicago style pizza.
Yeah, question was, hey, this kind of reminds me of a Chicago style deep dish pizza. Same kind of idea. This is a different version of it, but this is certainly a deep dish kind of dish. Got those weird things falling off. What was that? All right.
A shout out to Katie Hines. She had a really hard time with this today, but
Sure. I'm going to shout out to Katie Hines. It sounds like she had some troubles with her recipe today, and we can certainly help you with that if you want to IM us or instant messages after the class. Also, you can watch our video again on YouTube or on Facebook directly after YouTube. YouTube will be posted tonight, so it takes a little bit of work on us to get it onto our YouTube channel, but we'll have it there. Reminder of what's coming up this week. We're doing Sloppy Joe nachos, tachos. So it's tater tots and Sloppy Joes combined into one big pan. That's on Thursday. I will give you a hint of what's going on next week. Next Tuesday is Cinco de Mayo. And what does that mean for us? We're doing a class that evening called Birria Tacos, but for you guys, we're going to be doing tacos as well, a version of tacos for you guys on the kids class too. So we're doing Taco Tuesday, Cinco de Mayo next Tuesday. So get in your mind that you want to be here. Tell your friends that we're having a taco party at Main Course Cooking School next Tuesday, okay? Reminder, we're going to be doing more classes on Zoom. So for parents, there's classes like paella, and there's a sushi class coming up. As your Dutch babies come out of the oven, I want you guys to take pictures before you eat it. I want to see the whole thing. All right, so here's mine. I'll bring it over here. This one fell over here, but it's okay. See, I can just flip that back up. And then I'm going to just shut the oven because it's kind of warm in here. And then I'm finishing mine with micro arugula, which is just arugula before it gets real big. They pick it before like it's a baby green. All right, arugula tastes like really peppery, so that's why it's one of my favorite things. I love pepper. So there you go. So that's mine. Remember, it's in a hot pan. You're gonna want to cut it from this pan, not try to move it onto a plate or anything. This is where you're gonna cut it from. So be careful if you're cutting on a nonstick pan that you don't cut through the outside. Mine has goat cheese, but this is the one I like, and I want to see pictures of yours. If you guys are looking for a way to thank us for our classes, we accept gratuities on our Venmo, also Zelle, Cash App, and through PayPal. And they're all going to be posted on our webpage or our Facebook page right after this. So remember, on Thursday we're going to be doing tachos. So over the top tachos, which the Sloppy Joe nacho tacos. Sloppy Joe tater tot nachos. So we'll be there doing that. And then we have those other classes coming up. We have the paella class for parents. We also have sushi. We have macaroons with mom on Mother's Day coming up. And we also have our taco Tuesday next week. An evening, 5 o'clock, it's birria tacos. If you haven't had a birria taco, I want you to Google that today and see what that is. It's kind of like a roast beef taco mixture, smash up. So it's really delicious. It's really hot right now on the West Coast. So let's bring them to Houston's, because this is where the taco capital, Tex-Mex capital of the world, right? So we want to make sure we're being represented with birria tacos. You can cut it now. It's going to be the question was, when do I cut it? You can cut it now, or you can cut it when it's cool, when it cools down a little bit. But now it's good. And just be careful, because everything about it is hot. I mean, there's some hot sauce, there's hot cheese, there's hot dough in there as well, batter and you're going to notice that it cuts a lot. There's not as much gluten in it as say I'm going to cut it with. Instead of cutting it with a knife or anything, I'm just cutting it with a spatula, because it's that easy. And if you want to just hand me a plate, Hugo, and I'll... Oh, it's one behind me? Thank you. All right. So I cut it with a rubber spatula, and it's probably the rubber spatula is the best way because I can get all the sides and in there. This one is right where the edge is a little harder because that's the crispy part. But that's just like the same way as a pizza. It's the edge of the crust is the hardest part. All right, just gonna lift it up, and I'm just gonna take it over. And then I've always thought this, though, when you have pizza, they should send you extra toppings to go on the side because every time I get a pizza, it seems like all the pepperonis end up on everybody else's piece. So I think they should give you a little bowl of pepperoni that you can just add. That's just my 2 cents. I mean, but there's this is mine, my Dutch Baby Pizza Pancake. And I want to see yours. Remember that. And I hope you guys will come back and see us on Thursday. And then keep in mind that next Tuesday is Taco Tuesday here, and we will see you back in 2 days. All right? Peace out. Thank you very much. Send me some